Hello and welcome to TVB News. Financial Secretary Paul Chan today said the estimated deficit for this financial year is about $100 billion. The figure far exceeds the original estimate of $48 billion mentioned in the budget back in February. Mimo Singhai reports.
With about 4 months left in the 2024-25 financial year, Financial Secretary Paul Chan said in a Legislative Council meeting that the estimated deficit for the year is about $100 billion. The latest estimate is more than double the previous one, $48 billion, after taking into account bond issuing proceeds and repayments.
The
three major revenue streams recorded much lower revenue from as expected. Now, one is from land. There was a significant decrease in land premium revenue and land sale revenue. The economic situation prior to September, the real estate market's transaction was very lukewarm, and the profit earning capacity of enterprises have weakened in the present situation. That's why profits tax revenue has decreased.
However, Chan said the financial situation still has a positive outlook.
In 2024, the number of overseas companies or startups in Hong Kong has reached a record high, and that shows that Hong Kong is still an ideal environment for business. In order to inject new growth impetus to our economy, we need to do it with precision.
In the 2023-24 financial year, the deficit was about $101 billion. An economic academic said the deficit is a seasonal problem rather than a structural one.
The land price can be high, can be low. That is very much depend on the property market. If governments continue to sell less land to the market, and then the property price definitely will go up again. So when the property price up again, and then the land income will increase.
While the academic projects the deficit may last for several years, he said government bond issuance can be an effective short-term measure to cope with the situation. Memos 9, TVB News.
A Hong Kong court today overturned a government's environmental impact assessment report for land development at the Hong Kong Golf Club in Fanling. Mimo Singhai again.
In May last year, the Environmental Protection Department granted conditional approval to the assessment report on the Hong Kong Golf Club's land development conducted by the Civil Engineering and Development Department, or CEDD. The report was later unveiled to the public. 3 months later, the golf club asked the CEDD to submit extra information. The club also hired experts because they questioned the accuracy of the report. While the report states that 38 species of moths can be found at the club, the actual number should be 729. Meanwhile, the authorities said only one type of bat was found on the site, while the club's experts said the correct number is 15. Despite the CEDD submitting supplementary information, the environmental authorities failed to hold a public consultation on the relevant data or set a public reading period. Under these circumstances, the authorities provided conditional approval for the assessment report. The club criticized authorities for bypassing the public's right for participation. The High Court accepted most of the club's applications and said the government needs to relaunch a public consultation. Neither the government nor the club have commented on the matter. Memos 9, TVB News.
Reuters reports the U.S. will today launch its third crackdown in 3 years on China's semiconductor industry. The move is expected to curb exports to 140 companies. The sanctions are among the Biden administration's last large-scale efforts to stymie China's ability to access and produce chips that can help advance artificial intelligence for military applications or otherwise threaten U.S. national security. Chinese chip toolmakers Piotech and Sea Carrier Technology are also likely to be hit with new export restrictions. President-elect Donald Trump is expected to retain many of Biden's China measures. The package includes curbs on China-bound shipments of high-bandwidth memory chips critical for high-end applications such as AI training. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian said China opposes the U.S. overstretching the concept of national security, misusing export control measures, and the malicious blockade and suppression of China. He said Beijing will take strong measures to safeguard Chinese companies' rights and interests. U.S. President Joe Biden has pardoned his son Hunter, sparing the younger Biden from a possible prison sentence. Back in September, Hunter Biden pleaded guilty to tax violations and was convicted of firearms-related charges. The full and unconditional pardon is a reversal of President Biden's earlier pledge to stay out of his son's legal proceedings. Tracy Furness has more.
Hunter Biden was facing a possible prison sentence for federal felony gun and tax convictions. His father, President Joe Biden, stepped in and pardoned him Sunday night. The Democratic president had previously said he would not pardon his son or commute his sentence after convictions in the two cases in Delaware and California. In June 2018, Hunter was convicted in Delaware federal court of 3 felonies for purchasing a gun when allegedly he lied on a federal form by claiming he was not illegally using or addicted to drugs. He had also been set to stand trial in California in September, accused of failing to pay at least $1.4 million in taxes.
He was convicted in a gun case in Delaware and pleaded guilty in a separate tax case in California. He was set to learn his fate, and prosecutors were set to, try to seek to have a sentence imposed on him. And so this pardon really averts that punishment, ensures that he won't be faced with an incarceration.
This caps a long-running legal saga for Hunter Biden, who publicly disclosed he was under federal investigation in December 2020, a month after his father's 2020 presidential victory, casting a shadow over the elder Biden's legacy. It is not the first time a U.S. president has deployed his pardon power to benefit those around him. In December 2020, then-President Donald Trump pardoned Charles Kushner, the father of his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. He also pardoned multiple allies convicted in special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Meanwhile, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has nominated Lebanese-American billionaire Massad Boulos as his Middle East advisor. It was the second time in recent days that Trump chose the father-in-law of one of his children to serve in his administration. Danny Joe reports.
Donald Trump yesterday announced on Truth Social that he had picked Massad Boulos to serve as a White House senior advisor on Arab and Middle Eastern affairs. Boulos is the father-in-law of Donald Trump's second daughter, Tiffany. In a post that did not mention their connection, Trump hailed Boulos's legal and business expertise. Boulos's contribution to Trump's presidential campaign was also highlighted, as he actively led outreach to Arab Americans in key swing states to convince them to vote for Trump. Born in Lebanon, Boulos moved to Texas as a teen and earned a law degree from the University of Houston. He later joined his family's automotive business and rose to leadership positions at SCOA Nigeria and Boulos Enterprises. Boulos is no political novice. Before entering Trump's orbit through his son's marriage to Tiffany in 2022, Boulos has had long-standing ties to Lebanese political figures. It is reported that he unsuccessfully contested a parliamentary seat in Lebanon in 2009. And his father-in-law was said to have supported the Free Patriotic Movement, a Christian party aligned with the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. Though Boulos denied these claims, he said in recent interviews that he acknowledged being acquainted with most Lebanese Christian leaders and described himself as a friend of a presidential candidate backed by Hezbollah. Boulos's appointment came a day after Trump extended a diplomatic role to Charles Kushner as U.S. ambassador to France. The Jewish real estate mogul is the father-in-law of Trump's eldest daughter, Ivanka. Danny Joe, TVB News.
Welcome back. For the fourth night in a row, protests were held in the Georgian capital Tbilisi over the government's decision to suspend talks on joining the European Union. Police fired water cannons and tear gas to disperse the protesters. Thousands of protesters took to the streets, throwing stones and setting off fireworks, accusing the ruling Georgian Dream Party of pursuing increasingly authoritarian, anti-Western and pro-Russian policies. Police ended hours of standoff early on Monday by moving demonstrators away from the parliament building and towards the Tbilisi Opera House. Authorities also erected barricades with any material they could find. After months of tension, the crisis worsened last week after the government announced it would freeze EU talks for 4 years, with pro-EU demonstrators facing off against police on the streets. Romania's ruling leftist Social Democrats, or PSD, looks set to win the most votes in a parliamentary election, fending off a resurgent far-right movement that challenges the country's pro-Western orientation. With 85% of the vote counted, Prime Minister Marcel Ciolacu's PSD party was leading the polls with about 23.9%. The far-right Alliance for the Unity of Romanians, led by George Simion, was in second place with about 17.8% of the vote. This as President Klaus Iohannis's center-right National Liberal Party stood with about 14.5% of the vote. The vote is the second of 3 consecutive ballots for both a new parliament and a new president. The first round of the presidential election on November 24th saw an independent far-right candidate, Călin Georgescu, emerge from relative obscurity to become the frontrunner. Back locally, the government will adopt a smart and green mass transit system instead of heavy rail for the South Island line extension, which covers areas including Queen Mary Hospital and Huafu. According to the long-awaited proposal submitted by the Transport and Logistics Bureau, the South Island line extension will span approximately 7.5 kilometers, linking Hong Kong U Station with Wong Chuk Hang Station. There will be 5 new stations: Queen Mary Hospital, Cyberport, Huafu, Tin Wan, and Aberdeen. The travel time between Hong Kong U and Wong Chuk Hang on the new extension will be around 20 minutes. The government explained that due to the hilly terrain, some sections of the extension would have to be built deep underground if a heavy rail system was adopted, and that would not be cost-effective. So a smart and green mass transit system with a medium carrying capacity, mainly running on dedicated elevated viaducts, was proposed. The authorities will begin working on planning and design next year, with advanced construction work set to begin in 2027. 2 giant pandas gifted by Beijing earlier this year, An and Ke, are going to make their public debut this Sunday. Ocean Park says the pair are ready. Samantha Lee tells us more.
At the 2 giant pandas' new home in Ocean Park, the female panda Ke was taking a nap. She seemed satisfied with the climbing frame tailor-made for her. Sitting in a neighboring enclosure was An, happily feasting on bamboo leaves. After spending months in quarantine, the 2 pandas will make their public debut on Sunday. Before An and Ke are unveiled to the general public, Ocean Park has arranged previews for selected groups. Including these 130 students of the Strive and Rise program. This student said it was more impressive to meet the pandas in real life, compared with seeing them online. She took many pictures to share with her families. Ocean Park said An is more lively than Ke. Another student thinks the name An, which means stability Chinese, doesn't seem to match the energetic traits of the male panda. He suggested that the female panda Ke be renamed as Jingjing, which means quietness in Chinese, because she looks quite reserved. Ocean Park said the 2 adult pandas, both 5 years old, are in good condition and ready to meet visitors. Zookeepers said the pair have got used to the new environment, and zookeepers have been using Cantonese to communicate with them. As for the twin panda cubs born at Ocean Park earlier this year, they are expected to meet the public in February next year. By that time, members of the public will be able to greet 6 pandas altogether, including the cubs' parents Ying Ying and Le Le. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Pearl Magazine is up shortly. See you then.